So yeah, I'm Robert Ma with RN Systems Integrators. I created this website, carbonblock.org. The idea behind it is the objective is fix global warming. And my first project actually was a Arduino project that I'm going to go through today. And it's been on display a couple times in different maker festivals. What I found talking with people about global warming and carbon dioxide, they seem like frozen. Like, oh, can we do anything about it? Like, oh no, we can't do anything about it. That's all up to the government. I do just let them do their carbon tax or whatever, and it's not my responsibility or job. But I guess for me, I like to be able to do something rather than nothing. So this is my something that I thought about doing. So just as an introduction, some people don't really even understand how plants convert carbon dioxide into oxygen. So I mean, it's basically photosynthesis. That's inside every plant. Basically takes six carbon dioxide molecules and six water molecules, and it converts into hydrocarbon, which is their cellulose that they grow with, and it releases six oxygen molecules as well. So the idea is to actually break the carbon dioxide chain. So, I mean, plants, what they do is in the daytime, they absorb carbon dioxide and they give off the oxygen to us. And animals, we do the other thing. We use the oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. Actually, you can see the display table from Toronto when we were doing live maker festivals. This was in Toronto with the aquaponics setup with the tank and the plants. And just to explain the nitrogen cycle. So the nitrogen cycle is animal or fish waste. In this case, in the aquaponics, we have the fish waste, and it's being pumped by the pump water to the top. And the plants need the nitrogen for fertilizer. So it's basically a closed cycle. I mean, aquaponics is basically large scale operations. You have aquaponics farms with tilapia being grown and plants being grown. But they use a lot of energy. So, I mean, the idea behind my Arduino project is to create an off-grid project. I'm just going to show you that right now. So this is my indoor setup for the hydroponic system. There's tomatoes sprouted in the top there. And that's the water tank. There used to be a fish in there for a year and a half, but it's since gone on me. You can see the water pumping there. So that water pump is pumping up. It basically pumps in 8 seconds, and it's periodic. So the processor actually sleeps for a while, goes in low power state, and wakes up every 8 seconds and decides whether it needs to pump or not. And the pump cycle occurs. So almost all the energy doesn't go into running the processor, it goes into pumping the water. So that's the USB pump on the inside. It's a 5-volt pump. And right now I do have it hooked up to the Uno, but this board was used for pumping basically all winter. It had 2 battery holders, 4 nickel metal hydride batteries. Gives you roughly 5 volts for doing the pumping. That's a Bluetooth module, and then there's 2 headers on this board, one for the solar panel and one for the pump itself. Has 2 batteries. The idea behind this is to basically disrupt the carbon dioxide release. So, I mean, right now we're burning oil. I mean, this is oil that's been underground for millennia. And now, I mean, basically it's been sequestered underground. Now we're burning that and we're creating a lot more carbon dioxide. The idea is we want to disrupt that carbon dioxide cycle and actually start to sequester some of it. So I'm really say start with a small version. So I mean, green indoor space, 1 square foot at a time. And if we get like 1 million of these going, then we have 1 million square feet of green indoor space that wasn't there before. That's a real carbon sink. Because it's all solar powered, there's no energy being used to pump the water around, and you have green or indoor space that you didn't have there before. So again, getting back to doing something rather than nothing. Carbon dioxide is going to peak within the next decade. So if we can absorb that carbon dioxide and sequester it for 10 years, then we can re-release it at that point. So first step is aquaponics. We're greening indoor space. You improve your indoor environment because you're going to get more oxygen from the plants. The whole system's off the grid. So we have solar panel charging the batteries and then the water being pumped periodically to the top. And really my drive is really the availability of micro components. So, I mean, you have the huge aquaponics farms that use a lot of energy, but you can get small solar panels, small batteries, you can get 5-volt pumps, and then the Arduino, which is basically a low-cost microcontroller. And I use perlite for my pots. The main reason is because it wicks water up to the roots of the plants. I don't have to water the plants themselves. I can just pump water into the tray and the water will wick up. Perlite's also reusable. You can actually, it's a volcanic rock. Basically, you can take it, wash it out, and reuse it again. So the idea, be sustainable. You don't have, you're not throwing out soil or anything. And then the fish waste is the plant food. So the next stage would actually be sequestering that carbon dioxide. So you absorbed it. My idea is to actually do solar dehydration. So create dehydrators that the Arduino is controlling the fans, controlling temperature. You would take the organic material, sequester it into basically what I would consider like fuel blocks. So you maybe put some sort of additives so that you could burn them later. So you could store these fuel blocks for the next 5-10 years. I mean, that would be actually emergency fuel. So if something happens like the pandemic in the world and for some reason you don't have energy, oil happening, you could actually burn those blocks that you've made. On the other side is if you grow food, when you eat it, you're going to re-release the carbon dioxide because that's energy into you. The same thing is if you throw stuff into the green bin, decomposition is actually creating carbon dioxide and methane, which is actually worse for greenhouse gas. So actually, a green bin is not really helping with sequestering of carbon dioxide.
So I'll take for a tour around some of my development hardware. These were the original solar panels I started with. They're actually Panasonic panels. They cost, I think, about 5 times the cost of the ones you can just buy on Amazon. These ones are just cheap, inexpensive ones. These are my NeoPixel individual NeoPixels. So I can chain them together. I can put them, basically I had them on a long strip here, and it could be a bridge over the plants to give them light at nighttime. I did start with a simple Arduino, the big problem with the Uno is these LEDs that are on there. So those LEDs consume a lot of power. They basically would drain off my batteries within half a day if I didn't have solar charging going on. So I need to go to a low powered version of the software. So I had to go to the bare bones Atmel processor. You can see it on this breadboard. And then I just had my own crystal and the capacitors for the oscillation. There's the dial for the solar charging. And I have Bluetooth module plugged in. And this is my second version. Basically, this is a hard soldered one. I just happen to have this breadboard layout so I could solder the. I'm looking at using these smaller cards, ESP8266 cards. So ESP8266. This is a spark bond version. Nice thing about it is it comes with a LiPo battery connector and also a regular standard battery or power connector. So in this case, I plugged in the solar panel, and that's gets enough power to actually charge the LiPo battery. But you can see there's an LED there using up power. If I turn it on, there's another red LED that comes on. That would also basically use up the whole LiPo battery within in less than a day. So basically, I need to create a version of this board that doesn't have LEDs on it, and also have it run in low power mode.
So this development so far, I found I guess Instructables.com is a very good resource. It's got a lot of information on how to create hydroponics systems or aquaponics. But I mean, all the projects I've seen there, none of them have been solar powered. So this is the only one that I know. And so I'm using the Arduino. What I found about the Arduino, a nice thing is it does have flash memory, so I can store parameters there. Like if I want to store my pump cycles or the colors that I want to make my NeoPixel lights for grow lights, I can store that information there. Also looked at Fermata. It's actually a method of data collection, but I found it was easier just to roll my own data collection system on the serial port through the Bluetooth. I could do the solar charging, and really for battery operation, I basically need to minimize power use. So measure all the current draws, see how I can reduce. I mean, that's where I remove those LEDs and got rid of all the voltage regulators. I also needed a switching transistor to handle actually the pump current, because it has a higher current than you can just drive with an output of the Arduino. I did run a Kickstarter campaign. It didn't get funded, so I didn't go any farther with it, but I plan to do another Indiegogo campaign sometime soon. So some other things that are happening in CR, carbon dioxide absorption. They do have laser zappers that will actually zap the CO2 and break it into carbon and oxygen molecules. The only thing is, of course, using a lot of energy to get rid of the carbon dioxide. They have something more exotic, the CR5 project going on that actually takes solar power using a concentrator and actually breaks down the carbon dioxide. I guess my perfect ideal thing would be like some sort of nanotechnology that you could actually just plop down the desert and use the solar power and break down the carbon dioxide into raw oxygen and just lay down layers of pure carbon. So if you could do that, some sort of conversion. So basically a non-water version of photosynthesis that you could have in basically arid areas. but I don't see anybody working on that because there's no money in it. It's a whole profit thing. There are people trying to convert CO2 into to fuels, so turn it back into a hydrocarbon, but no one wants to just break it down into carbon and have nothing useful at the end. So why Arduino? Basically, I did look at 8-bit microcontrollers because I originally thought, oh, they'll be lower power consumption because they're only 8-bit. But I found that the code base for them wasn't as mature as the Arduino. There's lots of examples of Arduino online. I could figure out how to put the processor into sleep mode and have it wake up every 8 seconds and then do the periodic water pumping. The nice thing about the Arduino too, when it goes back to sleep for the 8 seconds, you know, the state of the outputs stay in the same state. So it's not like it turns the outputs off. So that's why the pump will run for the 8 seconds and then processor wakes back up and then it turns it back off. I could also manage with the 6 analog inputs on the Arduino. I could manage all the solar power and batteries and manage them to conserve power. So this is a graph of my data coming out of the Bluetooth connection, the serial connection. I just have an old Visual Basic program that I use to trend this. So you can actually see the solar power, and when the sun goes out, it draws the battery down, and then in the morning when the sun comes back, you see the batteries start to charge again. I found really with this, I could run the system on battery for about 3 days, with basically on cloudy days in between. And really, if batteries start to get low, it would actually go into a low power mode. So then it would start to increase the duration between pumps, and then that would conserve the battery even more. I found with tinted or low E windows, it really reduces your solar panel efficiency. So you'd need to have multiple solar panels to effectively charge. And for my data collection, I did start with a little quick Android client. It's just put together an MIT inventor, and it uses the Bluetooth connection and can send serial commands and gets replies. So I can read all the battery and solar voltages. I can change frequency the pump's running at. I can change the color that the NeoPixel lights, and I can turn them on and off if I want to have more extra light for the plants. So this is the next version of the board, basically ESP8266 boards. The problem with Bluetooth, actually, it uses a lot of power, so I need to basically turn it on and off to collect data. With the ESP8266, it has built-in Wi-Fi, so I could directly transmit the data to the cloud. So if we had a bunch of these running, we could actually estimate the total number of kilograms of carbon that we absorbed that day. We're monitoring the battery and we're monitoring the solar energy coming in, so we can actually estimate how much plant growth we should have had that day. The one downside of ESP8266 is it is a 3-volt power supply board, which is a little bit low for the pumps I have, which are 5-volt pumps. They still run, but you don't get as much water volume as with 5 volts. And then I'd still need to do a customization to get rid of the LEDs and the voltage regulators. So looking ahead, I've seen herb gardens. I mean, they've been selling in Best Buy, and they have an Android app that you can watch your plants grow, but there's really no control. It's basically just predicts the growth cycle based on the pods that you put into their herb garden, and it sort of estimates, when it should germinate, what plant side the plants should be in that. So, I mean, I'd like to create a real Internet of Things appliance. So you would actually be able to not only grow plants off the grid, but you'd also be able to estimate how much carbon dioxide you absorbed in a day. So there's a lot of development work still to be done. And probably it's going to be hydroponics. Aquaponics, I found, is a little bit more complicated because you have to balance the fish with the plants. You also have to provide supplemental food for the fish to eat. So with hydroponics, basically I've set this in my son's apartment and just put the seeds in and left it going, and I come back the next month and I've got tomato sprouts growing all over the place. So it basically just runs by itself. You don't really need to do anything, and you're getting fresh, natural, or organic plants, herbs, and that. So what next? There's more development to be done. Really balancing the fertilizer and the growth of the plants. I really haven't optimized that. And maybe do some more grow media tests. I just started with perlite. I saw different things out there. I did the perlite and I was pretty happy with the way it sprouted seeds pretty easily. But maybe the other medias will grow better. And then the whole industrial design and packaging. So if you want to turn this into a consumer product where people are buying these, $150 a pop, instead of buying a Fitbit, they're actually paying $150 to do something to actually green indoor space, which is helping global warming. Maybe I think maybe a better objective than having a Fitbit on your arm wrist. And then the other balance is a lot of people in the educational market are interested in this mainly for the carbon cycle explanation and the nitrogen cycle explanation for having the fish. So, I mean, you can bring that into the classroom. They're also getting some experience with doing the Arduino. So it's really got the three learning components in it. So people are interested in the educational market, but that would have to be packaged up and then marketed to the school boards. So my website is carbonblock.org. If you have questions or email on that, you can reach me on there. Thank you very much.
What's the practical scale of this thing? I mean, to be effective, let's say I want to set something up at the house. Mm-hmm. What's the practical scale?
Well, I mean, what I have is these are sprouting trays that I had bought before, mm-hmm. and they had the holes in the bottom already. So I just use that, pump the water in, and they seem to work all right. So,
but I mean, to get the effective volume of oxygen, what for? I mean, you're looking at maybe providing some conversion within a room in the house. Is that how big a planter do you need to do that?
No, I mean, I would say I'm okay with the size that this is, which is basically 1 square foot. Okay. I mean, in terms of like if I was going to sell a kit, it would be 1 square foot. Because I mean, I'm sort of targeting not people with houses, because people with houses have outdoor gardens and balconies and.
Yeah.